I'm Judith. I did my IB last year and then subsequently decided to do a gap year because I didn't feel prepared to make a decision about college while at school and while finishing my IB. So I wanted some time to kind of reflect, and also I really wanted some experience what kind of working a job would be like to kind of know what I would be studying for. And in my gap year, I've done a Bundesfreiwilligendienst at the Bund für Umwelt und Naturschutz Deutschland, which probably doesn't say a lot to most people. So I'll just explain what those two things mean. So the Bundesfreiwilligendienst is a federal volunteer service in Germany, and it's a government subsidized program which aims to get people to kind of work in public interest organizations and kind of spend some time working for the common good, I guess. And it's also seen as an educational opportunity, as it offers 2 days of seminars a month, which you can then allocate freely to choose to attend seminars that are offered in the program, which you can kind of freely choose, and they don't have to do they're not specifically kind of related to what you're actually working on. They can be related to anything. And where I'm doing my Bundesfreiwilligendienst is at the Bund für Umwelt und Naturschutz Deutschland, which is a really long name. In English, it's sometimes called Friends of the Earth Germany. And it's one of Germany's largest environmental organizations. And I work in Berlin in their office here. And here it's kind of the political centered office, which also kind of organizes Germany-wide things. So they have a lot of local organizations as well, but I'm more on the federal level. And at the office, I'm in the team for biodiversity, and more specifically, my direct team runs projects throughout Germany. So their main kind of what they're basically occupied with is organizing projects and planning them, and then also kind of coordinating them when they run, and coordinating the public image and social media presence, and that all kind of like news work and those kind of stuff. And some examples, I guess, which some people might know, the German Green Belt, along the historical inner German border. That kind of is a project that is run from that team, and I work at a project for the European wildcat to help preserve its the species, as well as the garden dormouse, which nobody really knows about. And in that team, I kind of do a whole list of different jobs, which I'll get to more later. It's a pretty random spot, and I didn't really even know what the Bundesfreiwilligendienst, or BFD, was when I started my gap year. And I kind of found it through just random Google searches on stuff that I kind of wanted to do. So I was interested in doing something environmental based. So I kind of just had to look for that. And the BFD, as it is a kind of government run thing, they have a centralized website with listings for all available spots Germany-wide. So I spent some time looking through those and found the spot that I settled on there. And then the application process depends on where you're going to apply to. But for me, it was very much like a classical job application, as in I sent them an email with my CV and then also my last report card, because that was relevant for me. And then I had a job interview, and then later got a call with a verification. As a average kind of what I do now, it's a very much kind of what you would see as an office job. And that kind of shapes my day-to-day. So it's changed a bit over the past like 8 months that I've done it now. In the winter, I did a lot of home office. So I worked alone from this apartment here. And now I'm lucky we get to go back into the office, and I spend the days mostly there, which is nice to get back out. And that kind of means I have to actually leave my house in the morning, which means I get out of my apartment at like 8. I take the subway across Berlin, which takes some time. But then at work, we usually still have a lot of Zoom meetings, and elsewise it's a lot of just independent work on whatever currently there's to do. If I'm at work, I and there's some other people there as well. We'll go and get lunch together, and that's always incredibly nice because you learn a lot from those kind of unofficial talks, and it's incredibly interesting to meet all of those people who, for me, come from very different kind of walks of life and have a lot of experiences from which I've learned a lot from. And then I also don't have to stay that long in the afternoon, which is nice because even though I have to basically I have a full work week, I can very flexibly allocate time in which I actually do work. So those days I can kind of, if I come in later, I can leave a bit earlier and then I'll stay a bit later the next day. So it's very nice because I have a lot of freedom in that regard. And what is even nicer is that when I close my laptop at the end of the day, I'm done. I don't have any more homework, which was really nice after the IB. So it's incredibly, I had a lot of more free time when I started than I did during the last year, which was very nice. What I actually do the whole day is, as I said, it varies a lot. Currently, I'm organizing an event with some colleagues for one of our projects. I've done a lot of research work on random things like certain insects which are important for our projects. And I do some social media work on the side. And also I help run a database, which we have, where I help answer questions that people have per email and help collect images that we need for it. But again, it changes a lot. What I do sometimes, I go out and we have a location from which we send a lot of packages, and I help with organizing those kind of stuff. So it's incredibly kind of diverse, which I really enjoy. And then also sometimes, which are kind of the kind of highlights, are the special things we get to do every now and then. We went to a lot of demonstrations last year. So after the elections, the BUND has a big political presence, so it's important to for them to show up at those kind of events. So I got to do all the Fridays for Future protests as work and write that off as working hours. And then also we visited in Saxony, a location where we're going to do tree planting. So we got to travel there. And I've traveled to 2 different meetings where we had project-wide kind of group meetings in Wiesbaden and Cologne. So we traveled there for a couple of days. And then also what are kind of the best things for me in one regard are the seminars, which are now in person again. They were online for most of the time, but I got to travel to southern Bavaria and stay at a really nice place next to the lake for a couple of days. I got to work with some horses for a week at the North Sea, which was a really wild experience. So those seminars really are a great opportunity, kind of like get out of your comfort zone and learn some stuff which you never thought you'd be exposed to. Also, I moved out for this as I'm in Berlin right now. So I chose Berlin because it had a lot more opportunities than Frankfurt, but I also chose Berlin because I know I'd have a place to stay because my grandparents live here. Because it is incredibly difficult to actually get somewhere to stay. So that was important for me. In the end, I did find an apartment, which I'm living at now. So I did move out and I now live alone, which was an kind of interesting development. And it is a definite shock if you're suddenly all on your own and you don't really have anybody around you that you know. But I'm very happy I made that decision and I like living alone now. Although it was hard to adjust at the beginning, and it is a lot more work than when you have your parents doing a lot of stuff for you. And then also I think it's important to note that the volunteer program it doesn't basically pay you enough to basically support having an apartment living on your own, especially in a place like Berlin. So I still receive financial support from my parents, as do most people I've talked to who do the same thing as I do. So that's something to keep in mind if you are looking at doing something like this. And although overall, I am very, very happy I did do a gap year. It's been like an incredible experience overall. It gave me a break I definitely needed after the IB. And it let me reflect a bunch and kind of take a step back from what I was doing, the constant studying. And it also gave me insights I never thought I would actually kind of think about in regards to kind of choosing what I want to study and what I want to work as, because it kind of showed me that some things on how I want to work, what kind of work environment is important for me, do I want to work with people, those kind of things, which I didn't really know about myself beforehand. And even more important, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of incredible people who are come from very diverse walks of life, especially in the seminars. You meet so many people who have chosen to do a BFD, who are all very motivated in their own regard, and all have very different experiences. And it was so cool to kind of talk to them and kind of learn stuff from them. A lot of people who are in similar situations as well as me don't really know what to study. And it's so nice to talk to those people and kind of learn from them. And then also at work, my colleagues who are incredibly supportive have given me a lot of self-confidence kind of in this environment, which I didn't know anything about and I was really unsure about. So I've got a lot of self-confidence in my abilities to succeed outside of school as well, which is something that you don't really get when you're in school. You're in this bubble, and it was really nice to step outside of this bubble and kind of learn about that and still realize that I'm doing okay, I've got this, and that kind of helps a lot for me, especially now going into college. I'll know that after college, I have something that I can look forward to and something that I'll master as well and not be so unsure about that kind of future. Speaking of college, I will be applying to uni or I'll be going to uni in the fall. And the gap year made me a lot less stressed about the uni decision, which is very nice. It made me more confident in the decision I will be making and more confident that I know that the decision I'm making is right for me. And it also kind of made me put less weight on this decision of what I want to study. It's been a lot more knowing that it's not the end of the world, which it sometimes seems like when you're in school, that this is like this big thing that you have to decide. And it's been really nice to kind of take a step back and reevaluate all of that. And as a bonus point, if you're gonna do a BFD and then study in Germany, you can kind of get bonus points because in Germany you get Wartesemester, which are kind of semesters which you didn't spend studying. And if you do a BFD, those can sometimes be like doubled, or you can get essentially bonus points in your application if the thing you did is related to what you will be studying. So that can also help. And I guess overall, some advice I might give to some others if they're thinking of doing a gap year is I definitely encourage them to do a gap year. It's an incredible experience, and kind of the worry in the beginning that you're kind of wasting a year of your life while everybody's getting ahead at college and moving on is definitely not true. But that's something I struggled with in the beginning, and it was really nice to now kind of be like, even though on paper I'm not that year ahead in college, I still feel like I learned so much, and it was definitely not a year wasted. Although I think a gap year is something you can end up wasting, I think it's important that you kind of, if you do a gap year, you really apply yourself and you're like, I'm going to do something with this year. I'll go outside, I'll experience stuff, and then think about the stuff you experienced to kind of actually make use of the things you learned. And I think in the beginning, the best thing you can do is kind of just get online and research and just look for things, because that for me as well, I had no idea this existed when I started researching, and just finding so many possibilities that you could do, and kind of just you don't know all the stuff that's out there, so just like researching, looking for things, and kind of opening yourself up to that, I think is the best way to start in that regard. And I guess that's most of the stuff I have to say. I don't know if there's any questions.
So questions maybe, so when you decided to go for a gap year, did you already had an idea what you want to study and you chose the gap year accordingly, or did you have really no idea and you chose just regarding your interest, personal interest?
I had an idea. So I was interested in geography. so that was my like one kind of clue I had. And I did kind of look in that direction, but in the end, I stayed kind of open because I realized for me, it was more important to just get the experience of working. And then especially when I found the volunteer thing, environmental stuff, that was something I was really passionate about, still am. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to use this as kind of a way to work on the stuff that I do care about, even if environmental work is not necessarily like the exact direction that I want to go in or even planned in going in at that point. It was, I guess, tangentially related to what I was interested in. So that's kind of what I went for. But yeah, I did have a kind of an inclination of what I want to do when I started out.
And what are you going to study now?
I'm still staying with geography. It's probably human geography, and I'm just gonna start my applications. I'm gonna be studying in Germany, so that's what I'm gonna be doing now.
And so your work, are you still working, or do you stop working to dedicate time to your applications now? Or
no, I'm still working.
Okay.
I'm gonna finish mid-July.
Okay. Because that was also a question for me, is that if you go for a gap year, would you rather still apply after during grade 12 and keep your application 1 year on hold, or is it still okay to apply afterwards, knowing that you might change your mind about what you want to study? So that was also a bit a question for us. What's best, or what's recommended?
I think I also I did a bit of application process in the winter, and I still realized like I don't really know it still. I'm not sure about this, and it is still a lot if you're working all day. It's still kind of tiring. I guess I was like, during the IB, I couldn't fathom like making a decision now, and then you're still very busy, so it's still not, I guess, easy if you're doing the applications then. But for me, it was definitely like, I don't want to make the decision now. I want to wait with this. So maybe if you kind of know what you want to do, then make your applications and then do your gap year, and hopefully nothing changes and you're still happy with your decision. Or good if something changes and you can make a different decision.
Okay. Any question? And so now also, because I think what you said also, you seem to also like the office work. So was it also helpful for you to find out, do I like office work? Do I prefer, I don't know, to be on the field? So because you had also several tasks and small projects. So is that also helpful, maybe not to choose the subject you want to study, but at least to have more ideas about the kind of jobs which you can do later, or you would like to do?
I think that was the main thing, honestly, which I think we currently have this thing where most office work is portrayed to be incredibly boring and soul-sucking, and you have nothing to look forward to in your working life, which I think is a bit sad, because it made me realize like I do like this, because it is a very office work kind of job I have, but I do enjoy it. And I think that was nothing you don't expect to do that, I assume. But I also spent a lot of time, I did some like other non-office job kind of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But also a lot of people who do the BFD in an environmental aspect do have more kind of outdoor jobs. They work a bunch outside. And I talked a bunch with people who are doing that, and it made me realize like, no, I do enjoy, I guess, sitting in an office more than maybe being outside all day and doing those kind of stuff.
And from all the people you've been in contact with, has it also helped you to refine your applications? Like they share their experience about specific universities, or did you choose your university still only with research work?
No, so I definitely, especially because I focus on German universities, and in Germany, I'm surrounded by people who studied at German universities. It definitely helped, especially because the people around me, there are a lot of people who studied very similar things that I wanted to study. So they definitely did share their experiences and gave some very helpful insights on that matter. And then also, especially even more because I'm in Berlin and I was looking at Berlin universities and the people here studied in Berlin. So they do know a lot in that regard. And then also at like seminars, there were people who just finished studying and who now were doing kind of a gap year before starting to work. And they also, I guess they could give the most up-to-date kind of advice. So that was also really cool because you do learn those things which you wouldn't learn online.
So the BFD is not only just after IB or IB2, you can do it more or less at any stage during your studies.
There's no kind of limit on how old you can be. So it's for people of all ages. There's a different kind of program which is similar, which is a freiwilliges öffentliches Jahr or freiwilliges or something along that line. And those are limited to people under 27.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
I do have a question. Was it easy to like get into it, or when you're doing the interviews, was it a difficult process or was it quite quick?
It was incredibly quick. I don't think I had a very standard application because I kind of sent in my application and I got a call back like 2 hours later being like, hey, we're doing our interviews tomorrow. So I think I kind of got lucky on that regard. It wasn't very complicated. I don't know how hard it is to get different spots because it varies a lot on how many people apply. And some spots are a lot more kind of more people want them, but I don't actually think it's that difficult. So like, because I don't think a lot of people know about this. So in most regards, the kind of impressions I've gotten is that generally you will get a spot if you apply to a couple and I don't know, make a decent first impression. But also grades aren't that important. I mean, they probably do like if you have good grades. I mean, that probably gives a good first impression, but they're not like as important with the uni stuff where it's like, you need these good grades. I don't think that matters that much.
And were they interested by your profile, the fact that you're bilingual, for example? Do you use English now for your job?
Not a lot, honestly. I used it like a tiny bit, but it's not that important. The interesting thing is like you can actually do a BFD without having a German citizenship. So I've met a couple of people who don't even speak German who are doing one. It wasn't that important. They were kind of, I think what they liked, I did an internship, a short one in Frankfurt at the Umwelt in grade 10. And I think that was kind of nice. It was kind of like a little tiny indication that I kind of do know like this a bit and kind of that kind of aspect. But I don't think they were that interested in like the school or they're mostly surprised when I'm like, yeah, I can speak English.
So if there aren't any more questions, we would like to thank you, Judith, for your time. And you're the first among our alumni who's sharing an experience on gap year. And thank you very much. Yeah, it was very interesting to know how things may differ from starting uni right away. And I'm sure the others can have a lot more information on how gap year works, and they'll know how to work their way in future. So thank you very much, Judy, for your time, and have a nice day.